let's go ahead over to, I guess we're going to go to Kumar. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, please? Just quickly tell us a little bit about you and your project.
Absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me. This is Kumar Anirudha. I'm representing IOTA Foundation right now, and we are working on this project called Shima Network, which is a layer one UTXO based DAG ledger. And it also has a layer two, which is coming up soon on mainnet. The testnet is up, which is a multi-chain blockchain setup, which has the currently EVM based, but also WASM VMs are coming up.
Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and take it over to Shahzad. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, please, and correct my pronunciation, because no doubt I got that wrong.
No, you got it quite right, Justin. It is Shahzad.
Right. And, yes. Every now and then I get a win. I'm glad. Tell us a little bit about you and your project.
Thank you very much for having me here. I'm part of Shardeum. Shardeum is a new layer one being built to launch at the end of the year. We basically are a sharded network, which makes us extremely scalable. We are linearly scalable, which means that with the addition of every node onto the network, we are able to show scalability, and the transactions per second speed increases as we add on to the network. Another thing, what we intend to do on the network is have fixed fees, which would be 1 cent per transaction. There would be no bidding process, so you basically pay what you see. And that makes it extremely exciting in markets where the dollar is very pricey, including the US, of course. But then, we've found a lot of grassroots support in India. We have seen a lot of support in the APAC region and in Africa. And our BetaNet is up and about. We started with 150 nodes. Within a week, we had crossed 37,000 nodes, all being done by the community without any incentives. So that's been, phenomenal for us. And we're getting ready to launch in the December timeline. So look out for us. Shardeum is here.
Fantastic. Anyone else, by the way, who is joining this panel, go ahead and raise your hand if we haven't noticed you. It's a lot of sorting through. I love Spaces. It's a great platform, but sometimes the interface is a little kludgy, like it threw me off 5 minutes ago. That tends to happen. So if you are out there and you need to be put on this panel, raise your hand and let us know. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get into the last question or the last topic, I should say. And I love it because it is an important question. It is core to who we are in a lot of ways. If you look at the beginning of crypto as really, although there are arguments that there are other places where it would start, if you look at it from the launch of the Bitcoin white paper, decentralization and global access to a digital currency, a decentralized currency that would be secure as a storage of value and in exchange for goods as a currency, in other words, that has been part of the intention from the very, very beginning. After, the boom and the heady optimism of 2020, and then the painful doldrums of 2022 and 2023, what does this decentralization mean to us today? Kumar?
Yeah, I think mostly it resonates with sort of freedom and ownership, right? Sounds like a marketing pitch, but if we really go back to why it actually started, it started with making things accessible to anybody and anywhere without having to rely on a particular service or a particular organization, right? And that doesn't have to do that we need to get rid of some sort of gatekeeper or something. Gatekeepers are fine, but as long as they also value what comes along with it. One of the very early examples, pre-Web3, pre-blockchain, comes with torrents, right? Where we still would share files very freely in an open network. We had Onion websites where we can set it up from anywhere and can be accessible to anywhere. I think that those were some of the very original ideas which came up. Not even talking from a very deep or dark web perspective, but just coming back to how the distributed databases worked. Distributed databases have worked since 80s, 90s, right? Where we would distribute data into different databases just for the sake of how securely and how safely it can go along, and also from a scalability perspective. All those things combinedly sort of gives a real meaning to decentralization. What crypto has added on is just to ensure that decentralization is also sustainable.
Okay, great. Shahzad, is it at this point, is decentralization something we have to position for users in order to make them feel more comfortable? There has been a lot of centralization going on with, epic fails epic frauds, perhaps like FTX, and that hasn't escaped at least people within the space.
Very rightly so. I mean, there are still, a lot of centralized exchanges which basically, quote unquote, manage our money. Eventually, these will all move on to DEXs where the owners, the key holders, will actually have control of their asset base. So decentralization is definitely important. It definitely has a huge space. But the problem has been that usage of these decentralized units let's take it from a grandmother's point of view, has been difficult. So until there's a very easy user interface, we'll start seeing some resistance. And again, the loss of passwords, etc., which will come into play. So that's one aspect of decentralization. The second is, the point of entry. There have been several barriers. For example, if you want to run a series of nodes on certain networks, it becomes extremely difficult because the requirements of the nodes are so high that an average Joe cannot really run a network from his home. So, all of us are trying to change that. We at Shardeum are trying to change that as well. We want to create a permissionless network where the ease of entry is very, very simple. You could run with a home computer as well. So these are things which will eventually come into play.
Kumar, do you think that, what about this tendency to have drifted towards centralization? If you look at any of the major exchanges, really any of the biggest projects that were getting the most cheerleading in 2020 tended to be the most hyped up ones, tended to be centralized projects. Is that just human nature? People want to cheer for a home team? Is that why that happened?
I believe it's more towards user convenience. Like, I just want to watch a particular TV series or something. I just open Netflix and watch it from there. If somebody told me that, oh, you need to run a node and you need to download the entire movie on your system and then you have to run it, I'll probably no, I don't want to do that. I don't care if Netflix is taking my data. I'll just stream it from there. It's just the ease of usage. Which is probably the most relevant factor. Second is, I think a lot of building blocks and infrastructure is still lacking. Our current Web3, so-and-so Web3, is still built on top of Web2. We are interacting via Web2. If we have to interact with a decentralized network, we are using the same HTTP protocols, all the Web2 protocols. If we have to interact with a wallet, we are using the OS, which is actually more directed towards Web 2 than Web 3. So user convenience and a lot of building blocks are still missing, and infrastructure. So until that happens, I don't think it will go on to a complete decentralized mode anyway.
All right, perfect. Feroz, I'm going to take this over to you. If I'm your average degen, and notice that nobody ever actually is a degen, but we all know degens. Nobody's ever personally a degen. But if I'm your average degen, I'd come back and say, really, what do I care about decentralization? Why should I care? If I'm there just trying to watch the little arrow go up and investing in things that I think will have sustained value, why is decentralization? Isn't that just kind of more of a philosophical question to me, or why do I care?
I think it was more about being anti-censorship. I think it's really important for people to be able to have their freedom. And living in America, we use the word freedom quite a bit, but not everybody in the world has the same freedoms. Not even us in the U.S. really have 100% freedom when it comes to I mean, interacting in blockchains, the more centralized it is, the easier it is for a larger government entity or even, people with the most amount of money to take control of things. So I think decentralization is very, very important when it comes to censorship. And it's been an ethos. It's part of the Web3 ethos, right? Like we want to be able to have things in our control, in our hands. And like the previous speaker said, I think we're still a pretty long way from being anywhere near fully decentralized. A lot of the infrastructure is still built on top of Web2 protocols, whether it's like AWS, storage, servers, things like that. There's still a lot of centralization. And the long-term vision of Web3 has always been to be completely decentralized. Bitcoin, obviously, everybody goes back to Bitcoin as being the most decentralized. Even NFTs have jumped now onto Bitcoin and inscribing on sats because it's the most decentralized network. And it's not easy to do. It's not easy to build a scalable, decentralized network. It's damn near impossible. But I think we're getting there, and I think it's a very important topic, just in the space in general, because there's a lot of people that don't have the freedom to transact how they want to. And the more decentralized the system is, the easier it is for you to be able to do the things that you want to do without having the fear of somebody else, stopping you, taking your assets that are in this network, or, just being able to tell you what you can or can't do. And so
Right.
I personally, as a as a degen that's not a degen, I agree with you. Like I don't normally care about those things, but I think
Right.
I have the luxury to not have to care about it so much. But I think
Right.
it's a very, very important piece.
No, I agree. Of course, I take exception to you impugning the absolute freedom we have here in the U.S.
I've been
you
here my
know,
whole life,
yeah,
and yeah.
and capitalists always mean us well. Haven't you noticed that? Isn't that a wonderful thing? The
That
more
money
money
just
they
trickling
have,
down, bro. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. That's all. That's all Elon's trying to do. And anyway, it has been awesome having you on the show, Feroz, and thank you all for your questions, for answering the questions. Manisha, we have come to the end of a really ambitious list of what turned out to be 14 questions and about, I guess, what, like
40,
52
in panel,
panelists?
yes. Oh my
Yeah,
God. Whoa.
that's fantastic. How do you
Maybe
feel? Did you enjoy the show?
I did. I did. I think everybody out here, yeah, internally, even so, you could also give a shout out to Bhavan, who is behind Router Protocols profile at this point and has been coordinating, getting people on board this whole time. He's waiting to get his Chinese food right after this.
Right, right, and congratulations to you for organizing this as well. Is there, since Router Protocol has taken the time to put this all together for everyone, is there anything that we should be looking for specifically from Router, or anything you want to shout out that's coming up in the near future? People should be on the lookout for.
Absolutely. So Router Protocol just released its testnet phase 1, and very soon we are also going towards our mainnet. So do stay tuned. And for right now, you could also look into our gamified testnet. So essentially, you could go into the testnet, mint your own character, and that would enable you to go to the next step of the testnet. It's really cool. Just check it out. Also, guys, just
Beautiful.
while we are on the topic, it was an amazing panel discussion. Like so much that happened here. I really think that innovation in Web3 is a journey, and I think that's also something that each panel mentioned here. That there are things that are being built, there are things that would happen. So that's just my 2 cents in terms of all the brilliant minds who came here today with their pioneering solutions that are not only groundbreaking but also are built to last, which is the most amazing thing in my experience or in my opinion. Sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely. You put together a wonderful thing here today. It's been great to be able to share and
The first
exchange
time
ideas with so
The
many
first
people.
time
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
told you about this, Justin, I remember you could not believe it, right? You're like, no,
Yeah, no,
it's not
that's
possible.
true. I book about 20 people a week for the 4 spaces that I do, and frankly, that takes up practically all my time. So 50 just sounds like a marathon run. But we had a great time, and thank you everyone for tuning in. I want to ask you all to, well, first of all, thank you for being a positive part of our ecosystem here by joining us for this spaces. Please join us again when hopefully we have another one coming up soon. But in the meantime, go ahead and follow Router Protocol. Follow all of Feroz and Kumar and Shahzad and the 40 other guests that came before them. We've had really some brilliant people on today. It's a great way to fill up your timeline with more Web3 kind of content. And we thank you so much for joining us today. If, as I say at the end of every show I do these days, take some time if you don't usually, to get away from your computer or your connected devices, including your phone, and try and go for a walk, do something that interacts with the outside world at some point or another. It's just technology and, well, blockchain, which is ultimately money, but it's just money. It's important, but it isn't everything. So you got to remember to take the time to take care of yourselves. And thank you so much to Manisha and our hosts with a Router Protocol for putting on this great show.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. You have a great day.
To the community that's here for a long, long time.
Yeah, we had a great time. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, we'll talk to you soon, everyone. Peace.
Bye-bye.